My daughter-in-law had just been promoted. She took the whole family out to celebrate at an upscale restaurant, but she didn't invite me. A few hours later, I got a text message. "Mother-in-law, don't forget to heat up the leftovers in the fridge." "No need to waste food," I replied with one single word. "Okay." Then I quietly packed my suitcase and left. That night, when they came home laughing and tipsy, they opened the door and froze. My phone buzzed on the kitchen table while I still sat there, staring at an untouched bowl of instant soup. The house smelled of floor cleaner and loneliness. I had spent the entire afternoon cleaning every corner, ironing Daniel's shirts, folding my grandchildren's clothes. The scent of bleach still clung to my hands. When my phone rang, I thought maybe Daniel was calling to tell me they were on their way home, that there would be a seat for me at that table. But no, it was another message from Natalie, my daughter-in-law. "Mother-in-law, don't forget to heat up the leftovers in the fridge. No need to waste food." I read that line 3 times. Something inside me broke quietly, like a porcelain cup falling to the floor without a sound, until it shattered into dust. It wasn't just the words, it was the tone, the mockery between the lines. While I sat eating alone in the house I had helped pay for, they were clinking wine glasses at Riverside View Restaurant, where the cheapest dish costs nearly $50. I opened Instagram. I shouldn't have, but I did. There they were, Daniel wearing the white shirt I had ironed that very morning, Natalie in a tight red dress, glowing as if the whole world belonged to her. My grandchildren, Ethan and Lily, were eating fried shrimp and making silly faces at the camera. Natalie's sister, brother-in-law, and her mother were there too. Everyone was except me. The caption read, "Celebrating the Queen's promotion, the youngest regional director in the YAS. Company's history. Cheers to women who never stop climbing." 200 likes in just a few minutes. I closed the app, set my phone down, and looked at my cold soup. Strangely, I didn't cry, didn't rage, didn't throw anything. A cold calm spread through me, as if my body already understood what my mind hadn't yet accepted. I stood up, walked to my room, and opened the closet. They had no idea I had been preparing for this moment for months, and this time I wasn't going to reheat their leftovers. I was going to disappear. When they came back tonight, drunk and arrogant, what they saw behind that door would shake them. But for you to understand why I made that choice, I have to start from the beginning, the story of a 68-year-old woman who gave everything to her family only to be treated like unpaid help. 3 years ago, I lost everything without realizing I was signing my own sentence. 3 years and 4 months ago, I buried my husband, Edward, pancreatic. Cancer took him in just 6 short months. After the funeral, the house was so empty I could hear the ticking of the clock. 2 weeks later, Daniel came to visit with Natalie. My son still had that same smile, the one he used whenever he was about to ask me for something. "Mom," he said while sipping coffee in the kitchen, "Natalie and I are looking for a new place. We want something bigger for the kids, but housing prices are ridiculous right now." Natalie nodded, running a manicured coral-colored nail along her mug. "The down payment is around $40,000. We've been saving all year but only have half." "How much more do you need?" I asked. Daniel looked down. "If you sold this house, Mom, you could move in with us. You wouldn't be alone anymore. The kids love you. It's a win-win for everyone." Natalie smiled. "That's right, mother-in-law. You can help with the kids and we'll take care of you like a real family." Family. 3 weeks. Later, I sold my house, the place where we'd lived for over 40 years, filled with memories, sold for $70,000. I gave Daniel $40,000 for the down payment and kept the rest for emergencies. My biggest mistake was not putting my name on the new house's paperwork. Daniel said it wasn't necessary. The house belongs to all of us. And I foolishly believed him. The new home was in a quiet suburban neighborhood, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, a double garage. Beautiful, modern, and cold. At first, things were fine. I'd wake early, make strong coffee with a pinch of cinnamon for Daniel, cook breakfast, wake Ethan and Lily, brush their hair, pack their lunches. Natalie left around 7:30 every morning, flawless in her business suit and expensive perfume. She rarely greeted me. Daniel would head to work next, sometimes kissing my forehead, sometimes just saying, "Thanks, Mom," without looking up. And me? I'd clean the dishes, do the laundry, scrub the floors until they shone, yet it was never enough for Natalie. Every evening, she'd inspect every corner, swipe her fingers along the shelves for dust, check the fridge, stare at the bathroom mirror and say, "Mother-in-law, the mirror still has water spots. Ethan's pants aren't ironed properly. You use too much detergent, it's wasteful." She never once called me Catherine, only mother-in-law, as if it were a job title. The children were my only comfort. Ethan hugged me every day after school. Lily would fall asleep on my lap during bedtime stories. But every time Natalie saw it, her face stiffened. One day, Lily said, "I love Grandma more than Mommy," right in front of her. That night, I heard them fighting. "Your mother's spoiling the kids, Daniel. She's ruining them. She's my mother, Natalie. Don't be cruel. Your mother or the unpaid maid." Silence. Daniel said nothing. That was the moment I realized the line. It had been crossed. I wasn't help anymore. I was a burden. In the months that followed, Natalie became more skilled at pushing me out. She'd host parties without telling me, introduce me to her friends as Daniel's mother, the house helper. I vanished from every family photo. On Christmas Eve, when they posed by the tree, Natalie handed me the phone. "You take the picture, mother-in-law. You've got steadier hands." That photo was later framed and hung in the living room. I wasn't in a single picture in that entire house. 3 years of endurance, but nothing compared to that March night when I got the message, "Don't forget to heat up the leftovers." Something in me woke up, and there was no going back. That morning, Natalie came downstairs in her pearl gray suit, beaming. "I got promoted," she squealed. Daniel came down tightening his tie. "That's amazing, honey. I knew you'd do it." I was flipping pancakes on the stove. "Congratulations, Natalie," I said sincerely. Despite our cold relationship, I never wished her harm. "Thanks, mother-in-law," she replied coolly, turning to hug Daniel. "We should celebrate. Where should we go?" "Oh, Riverside View. Great food, city skyline view. Tonight we're not saving money." "Can we come too?" Ethan asked eagerly. "Of course, sweetheart." "The whole family," Daniel said. My heart tightened. The whole family that meant me, right? I wiped my hands on my apron. What time should I make the reservation? Natalie turned around, surprised that I was even part of the conversation. "Reservation? For what?" "For the celebration dinner," I said. She glanced at Daniel, then smirked. "Oh no, mother-in-law. Just a private dinner. Me, Daniel, the kids, and my mom. Immediate family only." "Immediate family." I nodded, gripping the spatula. "Besides," she added, "someone has to stay home to watch the house, right? You cook so well, you'll come. Come up with something delicious." Daniel said nothing. They left at 11, the kids excited, Natalie changing outfits 3 times. Daniel gave me a quick kiss on the forehead. "Don't wait up, Mom." The house fell silent. I wandered through the living room, the kitchen, the spaces where I had poured hours into meals no one appreciated. Everything spotless, everything in its place, and me utterly alone. I made a cheap packet of instant soup and ate at the kitchen table, because the help doesn't sit at the dining table. And that's what I was now, a housemaid who had paid $40,000 for the privilege of working for free. I unlocked my phone. The first photo was Natalie in her red dress, holding a glass of wine. Thanks everyone for coming to celebrate. The next one, Ethan and Lily eating shrimp and fries, laughing. The third, 9 people around a table. Daniel, Natalie, the kids, her mother, her sister, her brother-in-law, a few friends. Everyone smiling, glasses raised while I sat in silence, eating soup. Over 100 comments in less than an hour. Congrats to the Queen. What a beautiful family. No one asked where I was. No one noticed I was missing. I had been gone from their hearts long before I ever left the house. I turned off the phone, washed the bowl, wiped the counter. Then it buzzed again. Another message from Natalie. Mother-in-law, don't forget to heat up the leftovers in the fridge. No need to waste food. I read it and felt part of me die, but another part woke up. I opened the fridge. There they were, half a roasted chicken from 2 days ago, leftover rice from Monday, vegetables I had bought and cooked, all leftovers. To them, that's what I was worth, disdain wrapped in polite words. I closed the fridge, took a deep breath, and typed back 2 short words. All right. But inside those words was a decision that had been forming for months, since the day Natalie started treating me like hired help, since the day Daniel stopped defending me, since I realized I had given my entire life to a family that no longer saw me as one of them. I went upstairs, opened the closet, and pulled out my suitcase. They had no idea that while they toasted with wine costing $180 a bottle, I had been preparing for this moment for 6 months. 6 months collecting documents, recordings, photos, building my case carefully. Because, as it turned out, this invisible 68-year-old mother-in-law, this woman treated like a servant, was the legal owner of the house. I had never transferred the title to Daniel. The house was entirely mine. I grabbed the large suitcase Edward and I had once taken on our last trip to California. The old hotel tag was still stuck to the corner. I set it on the bed and began packing clothes, shoes, and pictures of Edward. Then I stopped. This couldn't be an act of impulse. I couldn't storm out in anger only to come crawling back a week later. This had to be final, deliberate, fair. I stepped deeper into the closet, moved aside a few shoeboxes. In the back, inside a plastic bag, was an old sewing box my mother had given me when I got married. I opened it and took out what I'd hidden for months, a spiral-bound notebook. Inside was everything. Every dollar I had spent on this house since moving in. Every bill, every receipt, 3 years of my life recorded in the shaky handwriting of a woman who knew one day she'd need proof. I turned the pages. August 2022. House down payment $40,000. September. New refrigerator, $1,100. Washer and dryer, $1,400. October. New sofa set because Natalie said the old one looked cheap, $1,800. November. Plumbing repair, $500. The list went on 55-inch TV for the living room, $1,300. New mattress, $2,200. Master. Bathroom remodel at Natalie's request, $3,700. Daniel only paid $280 toward the mortgage each month, though the real payment was $820. Who covered the rest? Me? For 3 straight years, not missing a single month, I used $540 from my $940 pension to keep up payments on a house where I was treated like a stranger. I totaled the numbers at the end. Down payment and furnishings, $50,000. Monthly contributions over 36 months, $19,400. Repairs and extras, $11,000. Grand total, $80,400, nearly every cent from the sale of my old home. All that my husband and I had built over 42 years poured into a house where I was treated like a maid. But my real power lay deeper in that sewing box. I reached inside and pulled out an old envelope. Inside were the original property documents. My hands trembled as I unfolded them. The notary's stamp stood clear. Owner, Catherine Mitchell. Only my name. No one else's. When we bought the house, the notary had advised me to keep the title in my name since I was paying the down payment. You can transfer it later if you want, but this way you'll be protected. Daniel agreed, saying it was safer that way. We never changed it. At first, he mentioned it a few times, but it kept getting postponed. Eventually, he stopped asking, and maybe subconsciously, I never brought it up again. Now I understood why. A part of me, the part that had survived 42 years of marriage, the part that raised a child alone while Edward worked 12-hour days, had known I needed to protect myself. That part had saved me. I slipped the documents back into the envelope but didn't put it in the suitcase yet. Then I picked up the phone and called the number I had saved long ago. "This is Catherine," I said, when a young, professional voice answered on the other end. "Aunt Catherine? Oh, how are you?" It was Mary Ann, my niece, the youngest daughter of my sister. She was a 38-year-old family lawyer, a mother of 2, recently divorced. "I need your help, urgently. Can you come tomorrow morning?" There was a short pause. "Are you all right? You sound strange." "I'm fine. For the first time in 3 years, I'm truly fine, but I need help handling something about the house." "Your house? I thought you were living with Daniel and Natalie." "That's right, and that's exactly why I'm calling." I could hear Mary Ann pick up a pen to take notes. "Tell me everything." I told her the whole story, the down payment, the paperwork, every expense, every humiliation, and that message about the leftovers. When I finished, she gave a low whistle. "So you're telling me the house is completely under your name, and they don't know it?" "Exactly. And you have all the financial proof?" "Every single piece." My God, Aunt Catherine. This is legal gold. You have an airtight case. You can evict them, charge back rent, or sell the property. They're just tenants without a contract. They have no legal rights whatsoever. I smiled, not out of joy, but because justice was finally coming. "I'll be at your office at 8 a.m. tomorrow." "I'll be waiting. Bring every document you have." I hung up, took a deep breath, then dialed another number. "Hello?" A man's groggy voice answered. "Mr. Hector, this is Catherine Mitchell. I'm sorry for calling so late." "Mrs. Catherine, is something wrong?" Hector was a longtime family friend, the notary who had handled Edward's will and the house paperwork. "I need you to review a few documents regarding the suburban house." "Is there a problem?" "Let's just say I plan to reclaim what's mine." He chuckled softly. "Daniel and his wife again, huh?" "You could say that. I told you not to transfer the title until you were certain. And you were right. Meet me at 10 a.m. tomorrow at your office." "I'll be there." The last call was the hardest. "Catherine, you're still awake?" It was Linda, my best friend of 40 years, my former neighbor back in Dallas. Our kids had grown up playing together. She lost her husband 2 years before I did. Linda, do you still have that spare room upstairs? I do. Why? I'd like to move in tomorrow. A silence followed. What happened? For the first time that night, my voice broke. I can't take it anymore, Linda. I can't keep living invisible in my own house. Come anytime. I'll be waiting for you. I hung up and let the tears fall, not tears of sorrow, but of release. After 3 years of being dismissed, I was finally about to reclaim my dignity. And them, the ones raising their expensive glasses of wine while I ate leftovers, were about to learn the costliest, a lesson of their lives. I had a few hours before they returned. Judging from the photo posted online, they just ordered dessert, a chocolate tower with raspberries costing $20 per serving. I figured they'd get home after midnight, maybe around 1 a.m. That gave me 3 or 4 hours to prepare. I began packing for real, but only took what was mine. For 3 years, they had treated my belongings as theirs. The blanket my mother had given me, the silver rosary Edward bought, our wedding photos, my book collection, the Italian coffee maker from the old house. Each item I placed into my suitcase was a piece of myself being taken back. Finally, I opened my nightstand drawer and pulled out a small voice recorder I had bought 6 months earlier for $25. It was the best investment I'd ever made. Because when people think you're invisible, they speak freely right in front of you. I plugged the recorder into my old laptop and transferred the files onto a Rivers USB drive. The first file, October 15th, 2024, was Natalie on the phone with her sister. I'm not kidding. It's like having a free maid. She wakes up early, cooks, cleans, watches the kids, and I don't have to pay a cent because she's family. Then her laughter, the sound I would never forget. The second file, November. A conversation between Natalie and Daniel in their bedroom while I was cleaning the hallway. Your mom's becoming a problem. She wants to be involved in everything. She's my mom. She just wants to help. Help? She's getting in my way. The kids listen to her more than me. Do you know what that feels like? It's like I don't exist. Natalie, stop. No, Daniel, I'm serious. Your dad left her a decent pension. She's had enough. Maybe it's time for her to have her own place, a little apartment somewhere, or a nice retirement home. I can't kick my mom out. You don't have to. Just suggest. She'd be happier with her own space. Then my son's silence. I'll think about it, he said at last. The third file, January 8th, 2025. Natalie sat in the living room drinking wine with her friends while I was in the kitchen preparing snacks. You have no idea how lucky I am, she said. My mother-in-law does all the housework, so I can focus completely on my career. That's why I got promoted. One friend asked, does she get paid? Paid for what? She lives here rent-free and even sold her house to give my husband the down payment. She basically paid to live with us. Laughter erupted. Smart move, another said. Use her while she can still work. Once she's too old, you can deal with it later. 17 recordings in total. 17 times they talked about me as if I were disposable. I copied all the data to the USB drive and sent a backup to my email, just in case. Then I opened the drawer and took out my old phone, the one I used. Before Daniel gave me the easier one for WhatsApp, what he didn't know was that I never threw the old one away. On it, I'd saved dozens of photos. Pictures of receipts Natalie had tossed in the trash, screenshots of her social media posts, bragging about the house, the furniture, the renovations, always with captions like, my house, my accomplishment, never our home, or thanks to family. I saved them all to the same USB. At that moment, they were still at the restaurant, sipping coffee and cognac. I still had time. I quietly walked downstairs. The house was dim, only the hallway light left on. I passed through the living room, pausing before each item I had purchased myself. The 3-seat sofa that cost more than $1,800, the glass coffee table for $500, the wooden shelf where Natalie displayed her decorative plants for $700. But I didn't plan to take any of it. I wasn't a thief. I would only take what was. Mine my clothes, my memories, my self-respect, and the property documents. I went back upstairs and closed the suitcase. It was heavy, but I could still manage it. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I picked up pen and paper. I couldn't vanish without leaving a word, but I also wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me beg or explain. I wrote clearly, every letter firm. Daniel, for the past 3 years I've lived in this house like an invisible maid. I've cooked, cleaned, cared for your children, paid bills, and swallowed humiliation in silence. Tonight, while you celebrate Natalie's promotion and tell me to reheat your leftovers, I've made my decision. I will no longer be a shadow in this family. You'll find the documents in my nightstand. Read them carefully. We'll see each other again with lawyers present. I've loved you all my life, but love doesn't mean allowing people to step on you. Mom, I folded the letter and placed it on my round son's pillow. Then I took the envelope containing the property documents and stuck a yellow note on it. This house is in my name. It always has been. I have proof for every dollar I spent. Total, $80,400. See you at the notary's office. I placed the envelope on Daniel's desk, right where he couldn't miss it. I checked my phone. It was close to midnight. Their latest post showed them paying the bill. Time to leave. I pulled my suitcase down the stairs. My 68-year-old legs trembled, but they carried me. At the door, I turned for one last look. The floors I had scrubbed 1,000 times, the walls I had painted myself, the kitchen where I'd cooked countless unappreciated meals. I didn't feel sad. I felt free. I locked the door and, for the first time in 3 years, I took the keys with me. After all, it was still my house. I ordered an Uber from the corner. The driver, a man around 50, helped me load the suitcase into the trunk. "Long trip, ma'am?" he asked as the car started moving. I looked out the window, the house fading into the darkness. "No," I whispered, "just a trip back home, back to myself." As the car rolled down the quiet streets, I pictured what would soon happen. Daniel, Natalie, and the kids returning, cheeks flushed from wine, laughing, turning on the lights, calling for me to tell me about their wonderful dinner, only to be met with silence. Then walking upstairs, opening my door, seeing the empty room, finding the letter, reading it, and understanding everything. I smiled into the dark. That night, they would return to a house they thought was theirs, while I would sleep peacefully in the lavender-scented guest room of my best friend Linda's home, knowing I had finally reclaimed my voice. Tomorrow, the legal battle would begin. But tonight was mine. The night of a woman once treated as invisible, now fully awake and aware of her power. I wasn't there when they came home, but 3 days later my grandson Ethan came to Linda's house and told me everything, tears streaming down his face. That night, around 1:30 a.m., Daniel's car pulled into the driveway. The security guard said they were still laughing, blasting music. Natalie leaned on her husband's shoulder, drunk after too many glasses of wine and cocktails. Daniel wasn't much better, reeking of whiskey and beer. The kids were fast asleep in the back seat. When they stopped, Natalie staggered in her heels, giggling. Daniel steadied her by the waist and kissed her neck. "My regional director," he said. "And you husband of the year," she answered, laughing. They climbed the porch steps. Daniel fumbled in his pocket for the keys, swaying slightly. "Shh," Natalie whispered, laughing. "Don't wake your mom." "Let her sleep," Daniel replied. "She deserves to rest after watching the house all night." They opened the door. The house was dark except for the hallway light upstairs, the one I always left on so they could see their way. "Mom?" Daniel called, voice sleepy. Silence. Natalie flipped on the living room light, and they both froze. Not empty, but different. The handmade rug from my old house gone. The embroidered cushions I'd sewn myself gone. The landscape paintings Edward gave me each anniversary gone from the walls. "What's going on?" Natalie frowned. "Did your mom move her stuff?" Daniel walked into the kitchen and turned on the light. The Italian coffee maker was gone. The ceramic mugs I collected gone. The apron hanging by the fridge gone. "Mom!" he called louder. No answer. They climbed the stairs. Ethan said by then the alcohol had worn off completely. My bedroom door was slightly open. Daniel pushed it wider. The light flicked on, the bed neatly made. The closet empty, no clothes, only hangers. The nightstand bare no books, no glasses, no rosary. As if I had never existed in that room. "What the hell?" Natalie muttered. Daniel rushed into the bathroom empty. No toothbrush, no lotion, no cheap rose-scented toner I used. He turned back and saw an envelope on the pillow. His hands trembled as he opened it. Natalie read over his shoulder. Ethan said his father's face shifted from confusion to shock to disbelief. "What is it?" Natalie asked. "She's gone." He said nothing more, just spotted the file envelope on his desk. He opened it, pulled out the papers, and when he saw my name printed clearly, he whispered, "No way." Natalie snatched them, read twice, then went pale. "The house! It's in her name!" "Yes," Daniel said hoarsely. "This whole house always belonged to my mom. But you said she only helped with the down payment." "No, she sold her old house and gave us $40,000. I had nothing. It was all her money." Natalie looked at the yellow note. $80,400 exactly. "See you at the notary's office," she staggered. "You're telling me your mother put more than $80,000 into this house and we never transferred the title?" "That's right, Natalie. We never did. Legally, the house is hers." Silence filled the room. Ethan said he woke to the sound of shouting. He went downstairs and saw his mother pacing, screaming, while his father sat with his head in his hands. "This can't be happening," Natalie said, pacing like a caged animal. "I've lived here 3 years. This is my house." "No," Daniel said, his voice hollow. "It's hers. It always has been." "So what now? You're going to sue your mother?" Daniel lifted his head, eyes red. "The only thing I should do is respect her and never have left her out of tonight's dinner." Natalie froze. "We abandoned her alone, in the house she bought while spending thousands on wine." His voice broke. "And you sent her that stupid message about leftovers." Natalie opened her mouth, then shut it again, pale as paper. "I didn't mean to. I just—" "What? Thought it was funny? Does humiliating someone make you feel good?" For the first time in 3 years, my son stood up for me, but it was too late. Ethan cried as he told me what happened. Little Lily woke up and called out, "Grandma! I want Grandma!" Daniel called me over and over again, then sent a message. "Mom, please pick up." "I'm sorry. I didn't know. Can we talk? But I stayed silent because at that very moment I was sitting in Linda's kitchen, drinking chamomile tea with honey, wrapped in a clean blanket that smelled of softener, finally having the most peaceful sleep I'd had in 3 years. Natalie made one last attempt. We'll meet with a lawyer tomorrow. We can challenge the documents. Living here for 3 years proves some ownership. Daniel looked at her with disappointment. Don't you understand? Mom has proof for every dollar, every receipt. And worse, she's right. We treated her like garbage. I let you do it. He hugged his son and broke down crying like he had the day his father died. I ruined everything. I lost my mother because I was a fool. No one in that house slept that night. They wandered through the empty rooms, searching for answers to how everything had collapsed in a single night. As for me, I slept deeply because sometimes silence is the loudest scream, and disappearing is the only way to make people finally see you. The next morning, I woke up in Linda's home. Sunlight streamed through the window, birds chirped outside, and the smell of coffee filled the air. For the first time in 3 years, I woke up without heaviness in my chest. I stretched, with no one waiting in the kitchen for me to cook, no one checking the bathroom or giving orders in that sweet, fake tone. I was free. My phone showed 32 notifications, 23 missed calls from Daniel, 15 messages, 4 from Natalie, and 2 from unknown numbers, probably relatives trying to interfere. I didn't open any of them. Instead, I opened Facebook, a platform I rarely used, where old friends, neighbors, cousins, and classmates still followed me. My fingers trembled as I typed. After 3 years of taking care of a family that made me invisible, I've learned that loving yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. I hit post and closed the app. When I went downstairs, Linda was waiting with a plate of eggs, refried beans, and hot cinnamon coffee, my favorite breakfast. I slept more deeply than I had in years. Linda poured me a glass of orange juice and asked gently, "Sleep well?" I smiled. "Better than ever." "And now?" she asked. I cut a piece of tortilla on my plate and said softly, "Now comes the legal part." At 8 a.m., I arrived at Marianne's office. My niece hugged me tightly and handed me a cup of hot coffee. "Aunt Catherine, you're a legend. I couldn't sleep last night thinking about your case. Did you bring everything?" I opened my bag and pulled out the envelope with the property documents, the notebook filled with receipts, the USB drive with recordings, and the photos from my old phone. Marianne spread everything across the desk, her eyes lighting up like a detective piecing together evidence. "Perfect, Auntie. Your file is flawless. Title in your name, transfers, receipts, and even recordings." She plugged in the USB drive and played a few clips. Her calm expression shifted to anger as Natalie's voice came through. "It's like having a free maid. When this old woman dies, I'll finally be done." Marianne clenched her fists. "Aunt Catherine, with this we can do anything, evict them, demand compensation, even sue for emotional abuse." "What do you want to do?" I spoke slowly. "I just want them to understand what they've lost, to feel what I went through. I want them to know that love doesn't mean submission." Marianne nodded. "Then we'll teach them a lesson they'll never forget." We spent over 3 hours preparing lawyer letters, summons, property valuation, and calculating back rent based on local market rates. By 11 a.m., Marianne sent the first official notice. Mrs. Catherine Mitchell, the legal owner of the property at 847 Maplewood Drive, requests that Mr. Daniel Mitchell and Mrs. Natalie Mitchell appear at the office of Notary Hector Salinas on Monday, March 18th, at 10 a.m. to resolve issues of ownership and residency. Attendance is mandatory. Meanwhile, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. By noon, I finally opened one message from Daniel. "Mom, please, we need to talk. I didn't know the house was in your name. I never meant to disrespect you. The kids keep asking where you are. Ethan cries all the time. Lily doesn't understand what's happening. Mom, you're my mother. We can't end like this." Natalie had also texted, "Mother-in-law, I think this situation is getting out of hand. If my message last night upset you, I'm sorry. It was just a misunderstanding. Daniel is heartbroken, and the kids are too. Please, can we talk like adults?" I recognized the change in tone from command to desperation, but I didn't reply. I opened Facebook again. My post already had more than 240 likes and nearly 200 comments. I started reading. "Catherine, I didn't know what you were going through. You've always been strong," wrote Rosa, my old neighbor. "I've been living with my son and daughter-in-law for 2 years. I cried reading your story," wrote Patricia from the book club. "My mom went through the same thing. She ended up hospitalized from stress." "I wish she had your courage," wrote a distant cousin. "All older women deserve respect, not pity," commented a childhood friend. Hundreds of messages poured in, women sharing their own stories. Mothers and grandmothers forgotten, used, treated like unpaid servants. My small post had become a refuge for silenced voices. At 3 p.m., my sister called. "Catherine, what's going on?" Daniel called me crying, "Said you left." I didn't leave. I walked out of my own house, where I was treated like a maid. "But he's your son." "Your family. Family doesn't humiliate you, doesn't make you feel invisible, doesn't text you to reheat leftovers while they're out celebrating." The line went silent. I told her everything that had happened over the past 3 years. When I finished, her voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I thought you were happy. Everyone did, because I kept smiling. But smiling doesn't mean happiness." By 5 p.m., my brother-in-law called Daniel and left a voicemail that my son later played for me. "Son, you made a huge mistake. Your mother is a woman of dignity, and you treated her like trash. Now face the consequences and learn from them." The cracks began to show. Even the relatives who used to defend them started to rethink everything. That evening, neighbors from my old neighborhood called Linda. "Mrs. Catherine, everyone here knows what happened, and we're all on your side. I saw you cleaning their car every week, running errands, doing everything, and they never thanked you. How did they find out?" This afternoon, Natalie went shopping, her eyes swollen from crying. When someone asked what happened, she exploded, blamed everything on you, said you were selfish and left them on the street. I felt my blood boil. "And what did they say?" "Mrs." Carmela told her, "That house is hers. She has every right to leave whenever she wants. I'd do the same." Others were even harsher. Natalie ran home. For the first time in 3 years, people who had stayed silent about my pain finally spoke up. That night, I opened Facebook again. My post had over 400 likes, more than 350 comments, and surprisingly 23 private messages from strangers. They shared their own stories. I was insulted by my daughter-in-law. "After reading your post, I'm moving out tomorrow. I've taken care of my grandkids for 5 years without pay. After reading your words, I'm setting boundaries." Their messages made me realize something: my act of revenge wasn't just for me. It was justice for every forgotten woman. It was collective redemption. That night, Daniel texted again. "Mom, we received the summons. Please don't do this. We're family." "For the first time in 2 days," I replied. "Family is built on respect, not blood or obligation. See you at the notary's office." I turned off my phone. The storm was only beginning, and for the first time in my life, I was the lightning. That Sunday felt like a year. Early in the morning, Daniel came to Linda's house, ringing the doorbell over and over. Linda opened the clash door and stood firmly in the doorway. "She needs rest after 3 years of being exploited. I'm not letting you disturb her." I heard the voices upstairs and came down. Daniel looked terrible, dark circles, unshaven, shirt wrinkled, hollow eyes that made him look 10 years older. "Mom," his voice cracked, "we need to talk." I nodded at Linda. "It's okay. Let him in." We sat in the small living room. Linda stood nearby, quiet but watchful. Daniel fidgeted, ran his hands through his hair, bit his lip. Finally, he spoke. "I didn't know the house was in your name." "I know. Why didn't you tell me?" "I did. In the first few months, I reminded you constantly, 'Son, we should finalize the title transfer so everything's clear.' Do you remember what you said? 'I'm too busy right now, Mom. Maybe next week.' It's fine. You're family." Then you stopped bringing it up, and so did I, because the wiser part of me, the part that survived, 42 years of marriage, knew I had to protect myself. Not from you, but from a life that had turned me into a servant in my own home. Daniel buried his face in his hands. "I never wanted you to feel that way. But I did every single day for 3 years. Natalie can be harsh sometimes, but she's not a bad person." I looked straight at him. "Do you know how much money I put into that house?" The papers said over $80,000. "Correct. And do you know where that money came from?" "From selling your old house. From the house where your father and I lived for 42 years, where we celebrated your birthdays, where your father took his last breath holding my hand. I sold our memories, Daniel." "I sold the last piece of your father for you," Daniel cried. "Mom, do you know how much you paid toward the mortgage each month?" "Around $280. The real payment was $820. I covered the rest, more than half, from my small pension. After paying that, I had about $400 left to live on, while Natalie spent $180 on every bottle of wine." Daniel went pale. I didn't know. Because you never asked. You thought I was fine, that cooking and babysitting made me happy." I stood up, pulled a hardbound notebook from my bag, and placed it on the table. "Open it." Daniel's hands trembled as he flipped through the pages, each filled with receipts, bank transfers, and notes in my handwriting. Refrigerator, $1,100. Washer, $1,400. Living room set, $2,000. Bathroom renovation, $3,700. Living room TV, $1,300. His face grew whiter with every page. "Oh my God." "Keep reading," I said coldly. He reached the last page, where I had written the total over $80,000, and that doesn't include cooking, cleaning, or childcare. If you count that, add another $20,000. Daniel closed the notebook, hands shaking. "I don't have $80,000 to give you back. I don't even have $10,000. "I know. Then what do you want? The house? Are you going to kick us out?" I took a deep breath. "No. I just want you to understand what you've lost. Not the money, not the house, but me. The mother you once had. You're still here." "Am I? When was the last time you asked if I was okay? When did you last hug me just to hug me or sit and drink coffee with me?" Silence. I became the help, Daniel. And you let it happen, he cried. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back 3 years or my dignity. I took the USB from my pocket and set it on the table. What's this? Listen to it when you get home, but alone. Natalie can't hear it. Why not? Because if you two listen together, your marriage will end tonight. He stared at me. What's on? It? The truth. 17 recordings of Natalie planning to get rid of me, mocking me in front of her friends, talking about me like I was a broken appliance. I saw my son's face crumble. Listen to everything, I said softly. Then decide. If you want, we'll meet tomorrow at the notary's office with your wife. If not, we'll talk privately first. Daniel stood unsteady, clutching the USB and the notebook. Mom, 10 a.m. Monday, Daniel. At Salinas Notary Office. You choose who comes with you. He walked to the door, hand on the knob, then paused. Is there any way I can fix this? He asked, his voice breaking. Yes, I said slowly. You can learn. You can change. And you can teach your children that elders are not objects, that mothers are not servants, and that love and respect are not optional, they are obligations in a family. He left without another word. Linda sat beside me and pulled me into a tight hug as the tears fell. You did the right thing, she whispered. I don't know if it's right, I said, but it's what needed to be done. That afternoon, my grandson Ethan came alone. He rang the doorbell, and when I opened it, he ran straight into my arms, crying, Grandma, I missed you so much. I hugged him tightly, breathing in the scent of his hair. I missed you too, sweetheart. Grandma, why did you leave? I bent down to meet his eyes. Because sometimes, when someone treats you badly for too long, you have to leave so they'll remember your worth. But I didn't treat you badly. I know, sweetheart. I know you and Lily love me. But your parents forgot how to treat me right. Dad's really sad and Mom keeps crying. I know. Are you coming back? I looked into his confused 9-year-old eyes. I don't know, Ethan, but I do know this. I love you, and none of this is your fault. Do you understand? He nodded and wiped his tears with his sweater sleeve. We spent 2 hours together eating cookies, reading stories, and playing dominoes like we used to. When Daniel came to pick him up, his face looked drawn and exhausted. You listened to everything? I asked from the doorway. He nodded. All of it? Another nod, no words. Then I'll see you tomorrow. That night I couldn't sleep. I knew tomorrow would be the turning point, not just for the house, but for the fate of an entire family, whether it would mend or break forever. On Monday morning, I arrived at Salinas Notary Office. Marianne walked beside me, holding her leather briefcase, looking like she'd just stepped out of a courtroom drama black suit, hair in a bun, sharp heels clicking on the marble floor. Are you ready, Aunt Catherine? She asked, as we climbed the stairs of the old downtown building. I'm ready, I replied. Mr. Hector greeted us with a warm hug. Catherine, I'm sorry it came to this. So am I said, but here we are. We sat down. A few minutes later, footsteps echoed in the hallway. The door opened. Daniel entered first, wearing a gray suit and dark tie, looking as if he were heading to a funeral. His eyes were swollen from sleepless nights. Natalie followed no trace of her usual arrogance. She wore a simple dark blue dress, flat shoes, almost no makeup, hair tied back neatly. She saw me, then quickly looked away. Good morning, Daniel said hoarsely. Good morning, I replied. They sat across from me. Mr. Hector took the seat at the head of the table. Marianne pulled out the paperwork with calm precision. "We're here to resolve the issue of property ownership and residency," Mr. Hector began. "Mrs. Catherine is the legal owner of the house located at—" "We know," Natalie interrupted, her voice trembling. "We know everything." Marianne raised an eyebrow. "Do you? Then you must also know my client invested over $80,000 in that home." "I know. And you must also know you've been living there for 3 years without any legal rental agreement." Natalie's hands clenched on her lap. "I know. Then you also understand that my client has the legal right to evict you immediately, demand 3 years of back rent, and sue for emotional damages." Natalie lifted her head, eyes brimming with tears. "Yes, we know." The room went still. Daniel cleared his throat. "Mom, I listened to all the recordings, all 17. It took me 4 hours, and each one tore me apart a little more." Natalie shut her eyes tightly. "I didn't know," Daniel said, looking at me. "I had no idea," Natalie said. "Those things behind your back." "Daniel," she choked out. "Don't," he snapped. "Don't minimize it." He turned to me. "Mom, I heard her mock you, belittle you, and plot with her sister to send you to a nursing home when you weren't useful anymore." Natalie broke down crying. "I didn't mean it. I was angry when I said that." "Didn't mean it?" Daniel shouted. "There's a recording from October. Your exact words were, 'When the old lady gets sick or senile, we'll send her to a cheap nursing home and keep the house.' You didn't mean that either?" Natalie's face went pale. Marianne opened her laptop. "Would you like to hear it again? I have a certified copy." "No," Natalie said quickly. "Oh, I think we should," Marianne replied, her voice sharp as steel. "Because my client doesn't just have recordings, she has witness statements from neighbors, photos of insulting messages, and detailed documentation of both psychological and financial abuse." Natalie went white. "Financial abuse," Marianne repeated, "is a criminal offense when the victim is a senior citizen. We could press charges, Mrs. Mitchell." Natalie shot up from her chair. "Please don't. I'll do anything." "Sit down," Daniel ordered. She trembled but obeyed. Mr. Hector looked at her and said gravely, "I've known Mrs. Catherine for 30 years. She's one of the kindest people I know, and you, I'm sorry to say, treated her terribly." Natalie covered her face with her hands, sobbing. I know, and I'm sorry." I looked her straight in the eye. "Are you sorry for what you did or just sorry you got caught?" She looked up, mascara running down her cheeks. "Both. I'm sorry for being cruel, for treating you like a servant, and for being exposed because it forced me to see the monster I'd become." I stayed silent. I hadn't expected to hear that. Natalie took a shaky breath. "I grew up poor. My mother worked as a maid her whole life. When I finally escaped that life, I thought I'd succeeded, but I turned into the very kind of employer she once served. Entitled, cold, superior. And I did it to you, the woman who gave me a home, cared for my children, gave me peace. I became the worst version of myself." Daniel looked at her with pain in his eyes. "Why? How could you do that when you know what your own mother went through?" "Because I was scared," Natalie sobbed. "Scared that the kids loved your mom more than me. Scared you'd see that she was better than me at caring, cooking, loving. I wanted to feel in control, so I treated her badly to convince myself this was my house, not hers." She turned toward me, tears streaming. "But it wasn't. It was your house, the one you paid for. The one you built, and I was too blind and stupid to see that until you left." Marianne glanced at me, waiting for a signal. She wanted to close this with legal action, but something in Natalie's voice, raw remorse, made me hesitate. "I have one question," I said. "Does your mother know how you treated me?" "No," Natalie whispered. "If she did, she'd disown me. She always told me, 'Treat your mother-in-law the Dannersby, way you'd want your daughter-in-law to treat you.'" "Wise advice," I said coldly. "Too bad you didn't listen." Mr. Hector tapped the table gently. "Now, let's discuss the practical terms. Mrs. Catherine has 3 legal options." Marianne laid down 3 folders. Option 1, they vacate the property within 30 days. Option 2, they buy out her share for $80,000 within 3 months. Daniel shook his head. "We don't have the money." Option 3, Marianne continued, shared ownership with a co-living agreement. Daniel frowned. "What does that mean?" I took a deep breath. "It means the house will be legally divided 60% for me, 40% for you and Natalie. Everything will be documented. That way, you won't be out on the street, but the majority ownership remains mine." "And where will you live?" Daniel asked. "I'm not going back to that house," I said firmly. "I'll stay where I am." "But my 60% comes with conditions." Marianne handed them another sheet. "Mrs. Catherine will rent out her share to a family of her choice. They'll live in the house, share common areas, and pay $850 per month directly to Mrs. Catherine." Natalie's eyes widened. You want us to live with strangers?" "No," I said calmly. "I want you to understand what it feels like to share your space with someone you didn't choose. To know what it's like to lose privacy and still have to act kind in your own home." Daniel nodded softly. "Just like Mom felt when she lived with us." "Exactly," I said. "And there's one more condition." I told Daniel that the final term of the agreement was family therapy. "You and I will meet with a therapist once a week for 6 months. I'll pay for the first 10 sessions, you cover the rest, and Natalie won't attend, just us 2. His eyes grew wet. "You still want to do that after?" "Everything?" My voice shook. "You're my son. You made mistakes. You hurt me. But I won't give up on us without trying." Daniel stood, walked around the table, and knelt before me. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry." I held him as we both cried. Natalie sat there, shattered. "What about me?" she whispered. "Is there anything I can do to earn forgiveness?" I looked straight into her eyes. "You can start by treating the new tenants kindly. Learn to appreciate what you have and teach your children that respect isn't optional." Natalie nodded, wiping her tears. "I will. I promise." "Mr. Hector finalized all documents, 60-40 split, rental contract, legal protections, all notarized. When we left the office 2 hours later, I felt free. They, on the other hand, carried a lesson they'd pay for the rest of their lives. Because sometimes justice isn't destruction, it's forcing people to live with the consequences of what they've done, day after day. 2 weeks later, I sat in a small cafe with Teresa Campbell, a 52-year-old widowed elementary school teacher with 2 children, Michael, 14, and Andrea, 11. Since her husband's death in an accident, she'd spent 3 years searching for a stable home after selling her condo to pay medical debts. "Mrs. Catherine," she asked hopefully, "are you sure you want to rent to my family? My kids can be a bit noisy." I smiled. "I'm sure, and call me Catherine." I told her the whole story, no secrets. She sat in silence for a long time, then said, "So you want my family to be a living lesson for your son and daughter-in-law?" "No," I said. "I want you and your children to have a decent home. And if my son learns compassion through that, all the better." Teresa laughed softly. "Fair enough. When can we move in?" A week later, in early April, the moving truck stopped in front of my old house. I was there to supervise, after all. I was a co-owner. Natalie opened the door. Her face flickered through a dozen emotions before she forced a smile. "Welcome, Catherine," she corrected quickly when I gave her a look. Behind me, Teresa and her kids stepped inside. Andrea's eyes widened. "This house is huge," Michael added, "and beautiful, too." Daniel came from the kitchen. He looked better than he had at the notary's office, though guilt still lingered in his expression. "Mom," he greeted softly. Then to Teresa, "You must be Mrs. Campbell?" "Just Teresa," she said, shaking his hand. "Thank you for letting us stay here," Natalie muttered under her breath, just loud enough for me to hear. "Not like we had a choice." I shot her a cold look. She lowered her head. "Sorry, that was rude. Welcome, everyone." I showed them the rooms, one large bedroom for Teresa, a smaller one for Michael, and Andrea would share a room with Sophie, Daniel's daughter, because the girls wanted to. Sophie grinned. "I've always wanted a sister." The kitchen, living room, and dining area would be shared spaces, and that's where the real lessons began. On the first night, Teresa cooked dinner lemon cream roast chicken. The aroma filled the entire house. Natalie came downstairs, frowning. "What's that smell?" "Dinner," Teresa replied cheerfully. "I made plenty come join us." I could picture Natalie's face, that "this is my kitchen" look, but she swallowed her pride, knowing it wasn't hers alone anymore. "Thank you," she said softly. "It smells delicious." They all ate together, Daniel, Natalie, the kids, Teresa, and her children. A table full of strangers learning to live side by side. Ethan and Michael bonded quickly over video games. Sophie and Andrea became inseparable within half an hour. Children don't hold grudges, but Natalie ate in silence, looking lost in her own home. And me? Sitting miles away in Linda's cozy living room, I smiled, just imagining it. Time passed, and Daniel and I began therapy. The first session was heavy. We cried through the entire hour. "I lost my mom," Daniel said. "I let our relationship crumble just to keep peace with Natalie." I nodded. "And I let it happen because I was afraid. Afraid of loneliness. Afraid of being thrown out with nowhere to go." The therapist looked at us and said quietly, "Fear makes people accept the unacceptable. But you still have a chance." And little by little, through every session, we started to heal. Daniel began calling me often, not about paperwork or money, but about small things. What I ate, whether I slept well. One day he came to Linda's house with a bouquet of flowers. "Just because," he said. "Because you're my mom." I held those flowers and cried the whole afternoon. Meanwhile, life in the old house began to change everything. Teresa called me weekly with updates. Yesterday, Natalie got upset because Michael took too long in the shower. She laughed. I reminded her we pay full rent and have the right to use hot water, too. Natalie blushed but stayed quiet. "Daniel's been sweet, though," Teresa added. "Last Saturday he played ball with the kids in the yard. He's changing." And there were tender moments. Andrea struggled with math. Natalie, who was an engineer, sat down to help her without anyone asking. "Thank you, Miss Natalie," Andrea said with a smile. Teresa told me that Natalie cried afterward because it had been so long since anyone had thanked her sincerely. The children were the easy part. Sophie had a new best friend, and Ethan had an older buddy teaching him how to ride a bike. In their innocence, the children were mending what the adults had broken. A month later, Daniel invited me to lunch. "At home, Mom," he said. "Teresa's cooking your favorite dish." I hesitated. "Please, Mom," he added. "The kids miss you. I need you to see that I'm trying." I went. Walking into the house I had once left, my heart raced. Everything was familiar, yet different. Andrea's drawings on the fridge, Michael's bike on the porch, laughter, voices, life. "Grandma!" Sophie ran to hug me. "You really came." Ethan followed, taller than before. "I missed you." Teresa embraced me. "Come in, Catherine. Your home, your table." Natalie was in the kitchen, wiping her hands nervously on her apron. "Thank you for coming," she said softly. "Thank you for inviting me," I replied. We looked at each other, two women who had once been enemies, now learning to coexist. "The food smells wonderful," I said. "Teresa taught me how to cook it," she replied awkwardly. "It actually tastes better than what I used to make." For the first time, I saw humility in her. We all sat around the table, 8 people, one unusual family. Michael told jokes. Andrea sang. Ethan showed off his good grades, and Sophie proudly held up a drawing of the whole family. In the middle of it was me, wearing a crown. "You're the queen," Sophie said, "because you brought everyone back together." I burst into tears. Daniel held my hand. "Thank you, Mom, for not giving up on us," I whispered. "Thank you, son, for finally seeing me." After lunch, Natalie asked to speak privately. We stepped out to the backyard, the place where I used to hang laundry. "Catherine," she began, her voice trembling, "I know I don't have the right to ask for anything. I hurt you, but I want you to know I'm in therapy now. I'm learning to control myself, to be grateful." "Good," I said sincerely. "Teresa's taught me a lot," she continued, "about humility, about finding happiness in small things. She lost her husband and her home, yet she's still thankful for life. And me, I had everything, but all I did was complain." She wiped her tears. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just hope you'll give me a chance to prove I can change." I looked at her, the woman who had once made me feel invisible, who had wanted me gone from my own house, but now she was someone trying to rebuild herself. "Forgiveness isn't something you ask for," I said slowly. "It's something you earn with actions, with time, with real change." "I understand," she nodded. "And I'm willing to see if you can," I replied. Her eyes lit up with a faint smile. "Thank you. But remember," I added, "if you ever mistreat anyone in that house again, if you go back to who you were, the agreement is over. Understand?" "I understand." 6 months later, everything had changed completely. Daniel and I had truly reconciled, not perfectly, but honestly. We met every week, called often. He listened to my opinions with genuine respect. Natalie had improved too. She was still proud, but she'd learned to say thank you and to share. One day, she called, "Catherine, would you have coffee with me?" "Just the two of us," I agreed. We met at a Starbucks nearby. "I want to show you something," she said, pulling out a stack of papers. "I've been saving, and the bank approved a loan. I want to buy back your 60% share of the house within 5 years, paying monthly." I looked over the numbers and asked, "Why?" "Because it's the right thing to do," she said. "It's your house, your work. We've lived off your kindness long enough." I smiled faintly. "I thought you wanted to keep the house for free." "The Natalie from last year did," she replied. "But the woman I am now wants to pay for what she's received to sleep at night without guilt." I studied the papers. The price and terms were fair. "And I also want Teresa and her kids to stay as official tenants." Natalie added. If you agree to sell, they'll keep living there. The kids are attached to each other now, and Teresa's become a friend she reminds me to. Be a better person. I nodded. All right, I said quietly. She let out a deep breath. Thank you for giving me this chance, for not destroying us when you easily could have. I smiled. I gain nothing from destroying you, Natalie. I had already won by watching my family slowly heal. Now, more than a year after the night I left that house with a small suitcase, I sit in my cozy rented apartment downtown. I'm 69 years old. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I teach knitting classes at the community center. I still go to therapy once a month, this time for myself. Every morning, I walk with Linda. Daniel visits me every Sunday. Sometimes he brings the kids, sometimes he comes alone, and we cook together just like when he was little. Natalie occasionally sends texts, photos of the children, a new recipe she's tried, small gestures that prove she's really trying. Teresa and I have become best friends. Her kids call me Aunt Catherine. The $850 in monthly rent, along with the $23,000 from Natalie's payment plan, give me comfort, independence, and peace. I've regained my family, though not completely. Some scars remain, but I've reclaimed something far more important, myself. I've found my name, my voice, and my right to be respected. I've learned that sometimes the most important love isn't the love you give away, but the love you give yourself. Last week, Sophie gave me a new drawing. In it, I was standing in front of a house, holding a suitcase and smiling. Underneath, in her wobbly handwriting, she wrote, Grandma Catherine, the bravest woman I know, because she knew when to leave and when to come back. I framed it and hung it in my living room because that 7-year-old girl understood something most adults never do. Staying where you're being hurt isn't love, it's habit. And breaking that habit, no matter how painful, no matter how scary, even if it makes you feel selfish, is the deepest act of self-love there is. Now, I sleep peacefully in my own bed, in my own space, in my own life. When I look in the mirror, I finally see what I've been searching for these past 3 years, a woman who is seen, respected, and free. On a Sunday afternoon, I sat in the park with Ethan and Sophie, the 3 of us eating ice cream under the trees. Grandma, Ethan said, his voice cracking into the start of adolescence. Do you ever regret leaving that day? Never, I replied immediately. Not at all, because leaving saved me. It reminded me who I was before I disappeared. Sophie, ice cream on her nose, asked, Are you happy now? I pulled her close. I'm happy now, sweetheart, because I live where I'm chosen, not where I'm merely tolerated. Daniel walked up with a cup of coffee and sat beside me. The kids want to know if we can do this every Sunday, he said. The park, the ice cream, time with Grandma, and honestly, I want that too. I saw him smile, a real, genuine smile I hadn't seen in years. Mom, I know I've said this before, but thank you for not giving up on us. Thank you for teaching us the hardest lesson. You're welcome, son, I said. You know, my therapist said what I did wasn't revenge, it was healing justice. Because I made you face the consequences without destroying anyone. I gave you the chance to change. She's right, Daniel said softly, smiling. We sat quietly under the tree, watching the kids run and play. I thought about the women who had written to me after I shared my story online, women who had found the courage to leave, to set boundaries, to reclaim their dignity. I realized this story isn't just mine, it's ours. The story of every woman who was underestimated, used, or dismissed, who gave everything and received only fragments of respect in return. Because true worth isn't in what we own, It's in what we refuse to let others take from us. And I, Catherine Mitchell, 69 years old, a widow, have reclaimed my soul, and that no one will ever take away again. And you? What do you think is the true line between forgiveness and letting go within a family? Share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear them. And if you believe every story carries a lesson worth reflecting on, stay with me for the next one. Because here, we don't just tell stories, we learn to love, to grow, and to find ourselves again.